Hey, it's Carolyn Grimm with Accounting How To. The indirect method of preparing a statement of cash flows can cause you to rue the day you ever signed up for an accounting class. If you've attempted it, you know that's true. But you know I always have your back on these things, right? Now, I was making this video for my own students, and I thought I should share it with you too, because aren't you really my students too? So what we're going to do today is we're going to go step by step through creating an indirect method statement of cash flows. Now, before we jump into that, a quick note for you. If you haven't seen the companion video yet, that's where I cover what the statement of cash flows actually is and why it matters and how it's structured. I'll leave that linked in the description if you want to start there. Or if you just want to dive in, hey, I'm there for you. So we're going to go step by step through an example that is going to show you exactly where every single number comes from so that you can build out a statement of cash flows with a whole lot less frustration. Now, the example that we're going through today, if you're my student, it's in our learning management system. If you're on YouTube, it's going to be in the description so that you can download it and you can follow along with it. So now I'm going to disappear into a spreadsheet by magic. You ready? Okay, so here we are inside the financial statements for our company called Terrence Inc. In case you didn't know, Terrence, our emotional support dinosaur, he is quite an entrepreneur. So let's take a look at what we're dealing with this income statement. So we have our top line, sales. Now that sales number includes sales that we got cash for immediately, but it also includes sales that we haven't gotten paid for yet. So if we're talking statement of cash flows, cash has not come in for probably a good portion of those sales. So that's part of what we need to adjust when we adjust our net income on the statement of cash flows. Now the cost of goods sold is going to be tied to another account. It's tied to inventory. If you remember back in chapter 5, or maybe you don't, when we did a retailing or merchandising business, we always had to make a second half of a journal entry when we sold something to our customers. We did a debit to accounts receivable, a credit to sales for the revenue part of it, and then we also did that second journal entry where we moved things out of inventory, credit inventory, and into cost of goods sold. That was our debit. So that is tied to this cost of goods sold number. But the other thing that this is tied to would be our accounts payable. So accounts payable is something we have not yet paid, so cash hasn't changed hands. Now let's come down into the operating expenses. So this example has our operating expenses separated out into depreciation expense and all the other operating expenses. Now you may be seeing a more traditional look at an income statement where all of the expenses are listed out. In this case, they've lumped all of the other expenses together and they've just called out depreciation. Why are they calling out depreciation? Because depreciation is not a cash expense. So it is part of our net income. It's been subtracted from our revenue. So when we go to do our statement of cash flows, we're going to have to add that expense back to our net income so that we are pointing out that this was not a cash expense. So then we come down here to our operating income. So right now we've got our sales, our cost of goods sold subtracted from that, and our expenses subtracted from that to get to our operating income. But then we also have some other things on our income statement that impact our cash. So let's take a look at that. We have in other revenue and expense, we have a gain on the sale of land. So a gain on the sale of an asset counts as revenue. So when we're looking at our net income, we can see that this gain in sale of land has added on to the revenue side of our business. Well, that's not part of our operations. We're not in the land selling business. We need to take that amount off of that revenue amount because it's not related to operations. And then we also have interest expense. Now, interest expense is a weird one because it's really more of a financing piece, but because of GAAP, we're going to treat that as an operating expense. Then, if we come down here to income tax expense, income tax expense is dropped down below because you can see here the income before income tax. We're being taxed on that whole amount, but the income tax expense is part of operations. So that's something that would stay in there. So that gives us the net income. So that net income includes this gain on the sale of land, which is not part of operations, and it includes depreciation, which is not a cash expense. So we need those details in order to build out our statement of cash flows, but we also need our balance sheet. So what this balance sheet is giving us is 2 years compared. And that 2 years of information is what's going to give us the rest of what we need in order to do this statement of cash flows. So we need to look at some of the things that are related to operations. So for example, accounts receivable, directly related to operations because we are selling to our customers on account. So you can see here that we had an increase in accounts receivable. We have inventory. Inventory is what we sell to our customers, so it's related to our operations. So inventory went down by $8,000. We can see that we sold some land. Now, land is not related to our operations. Same thing with our building. And then here's our accumulated depreciation. So the other things that would be related to our operations would be accounts payable. We bought something from a vendor and we haven't paid for it yet. And accrued expenses payable. This would be things like you prepaid for software. And then we've got income taxes payable, which is going to be related to operations. We've got dividends and bonds, which are not related. And then we've got our stockholders' equity section. Let's now jump into the statement of cash flows and see where that information is pulling from. So here's our net income coming from our balance sheet right there. And then we've got some adjustments. And those are the things that tie back to the income statement items that were not cash, like depreciation. And here's the gain on the sale of land that we said was not part of operations, but was in that net income amount. And then we get into changes in current operating assets and liabilities. This is those increases and decreases in things like accounts receivable, accounts payable, inventory. So this is where we're going to bring all of that into play. So let's just start with the depreciation. We said depreciation was not a cash expense, but here we have subtracted $7,000 as part of this net income. So because it wasn't a cash expense, we need to add that back to our net income. So we are reducing our expenses. Our expenses are lower, which means our net income is higher. This gain on sale of land, we said, ended up being counted as part of our revenue. We need to take that amount off. Now let's talk about this confusing stuff with the changes in current operating assets and liabilities. So if we come back here to our balance sheet, this is where these increases and decreases come into play. So what we want to look at is specifically things like our accounts receivable, our inventories, and then down here, things that are related to accounts payable, our accrued expenses, things that we prepaid, and our income taxes payable. So here's what we're doing here. We are recording those changes. So we had an increase in accounts receivable. An increase in accounts receivable means that you don't have that cash. So our accounts receivable increased by $9,000. We didn't get that cash yet, so we need to be subtracting that back off. So this is the part that gets really confusing for people. But fear not, because I've given you a resource to help you with that. Now, if you're an accounting major and you want to spend time really thinking through all of these changes, that's fantastic. If you are somebody who is taking the class and just needs to get through it, use the resource. And what it does is it tells you exactly what to add and subtract based on the increases and decreases. So if your accounts receivable increases, you're going to subtract. If your inventories decrease, you're going to add it back in. Now, the good news with the statement of cash flows done using the indirect method is that you're not going to ever do this in real life because we have software to do this now. It's going to help us to understand once we set it up correctly, it's going to automatically pull the reports based on that information. But this is the indirect method of figuring out your statement of cash flows. What we now have is our cash
net income as opposed to our accrual-based net income. From there, it gets a little easier because now what we're doing is categorizing the other things that are not part of operations. So these are all going to tie back to our balance sheet. We said that there was a gain on the sale of land. Well, it proves out here in our balance sheet that we did sell land. We had $125,000 in land in the previous year, and we ended up this year with $80,000. So that is down $45,000. Come back here to our statement of cash flows. So we had a $45,000 change in the value of our asset. It went down, but we also had that $12,000 gain. So we're going to figure that in as well. And then cash used for purchase of the building. Let's come back to our balance sheet. So here we had an increase of $60,000. So where did that come from? Did we take out any new loans? We come down to liabilities. We don't see any new loan for that. So we're going to have to assume then that that was a use of cash. So that's what you see here. You see cash coming in from the sale of a land, and you see cash going out for the purchase of a building or an addition on a building. Those two things get netted out. So we had $3,000 more cash use than we did cash source. Come down here to the cash flow from financing activities. Those financing activities. So for this section, we're looking for, did we issue any new stock? Did we pay out dividends? Did we pay off any debt? That's what we're looking for here. So that's all liabilities and equity stuff on the balance sheet. So let's take a look. We had an increase in stock, so we issued $8,000 more in stock. And along with that, we had a paid-in capital, so we sold it for more than par. So we've got those two amounts for additional stock that we brought money in from. So when you sell stock, you have an influx of money, debit cash, credit common stock. That's a journal entry we've been dealing with all semester. And then on the dividend side of things, we have dividends payable. So we have not paid those dividends out yet. That's the important piece. We've said we're going to do it, but we haven't done it. So it's sitting there in dividends payable. With bonds payable, we had a decrease in bonds payable. The only way that can happen is if we have reduced our debt. So that means we paid $50,000 out of our cash account in order to pay that bond off. So here we go. We've got our $48,000 in additional stock. That's the $8,000 for par and the $40,000 for the additional paid in capital over par. And then we've got cash dividends. Now, cash dividends is a little tricky. So we see that our dividends payable went up by $4,000. But that's not what we really need to focus on. Here's what we need to focus on. Our retained earnings went up by $80,000. Now, we said that we had $108,000 in net income. So we should be seeing retained earnings going up by $108,000, but it's only gone up by $80,000. So what gives? Let's think about dividends. Dividends gets paid out of retained earnings. So that means we must have paid out $28,000 in dividends in order for that number to be true. So $28,000, but we also had that increase of $4,000 to dividends payable. So of this $28,000, we have not yet paid out $4,000 of it. So we're going to take that $4,000 off of there. It's going to give us $24,000. Okay, that is like the trickiest part of this whole thing, because if you don't understand where retained earnings is coming from, then it kind of makes everything else feel pretty convoluted. So that gives us our minus $24,000 that we paid out for dividends. Then we've got this $50,000 decrease in bonds payable, so we would have had to pay cash out to get to that number. So now we've got $48,000 coming in, a source of cash from the sale of the stock, and then we paid out $24,000 in dividends, and we paid out $50,000 in to retire bonds payable. So we have a total cash outflow for financing of $26,000. Then we're going to take those numbers and net them out to get our net increase or decrease in cash. And then we want to get our beginning cash balance. How do we know what our beginning cash balance was? Because it's the ending balance from the year before. So the balance on December 31st, 2024 is the balance on January 1st of 2025. We pull that number in, and then we can see that our net increase in cash for the year, plus what we had at the beginning, equals our cash at the end of the year. And this has to tie out to our ending balance for cash for 2025.
Okay, hope that example made things a little clearer for you. If you have a classmate that you know needs this as well, feel free to share it with them. So I'm happy to help, and I will see you in another video.